Okay. So I did also do another prompt. This will probably be the start, but I also did another prompt where like you guys already know I've been wanting to play Spelljammer or like sci-fi stuff for so long, and I just got interested in what ideas I could shoot back and forth with an AI. And because I was like, man, I'm so excited for this. Here's my idea. Give me your story hooks for like my idea. And so I wrote out like this really long, like thought out paragraph of like, this is my story hook for like a Spelljammer campaign, and it shot me back a really solid story hook that I'm like, oh man, it gives me like Dragon Ball GT vibes, you know, like the space jumping episodic adventures.
Nice.
And I was like, you know, Dragon Ball GT might have not been my favorite, but I'm vibing with just some fun time space adventures.
Yeah, I think Dragon Ball GT is just objectively the worst anime that's ever existed.
No,
I think it'd be a really fun D&D campaign.
Yeah, it's not the worst anime that's ever existed. There's worse, but it's not anywhere close to the best. Like, I mean, I've seen like 7 episodes of One Piece now, and I'm loving that.
yeah, for sure. And honestly, I don't know how many Dragon Ball fans we get on TableTalk Friday, but I've watched all of Dragon Ball Super, and that's also poopy garbage. So I'm not sure which I dislike more. But I'm fully caught up on Dragon Ball Super. So whenever they finally pick up the anime again, I cannot wait.
I mean, it's not like you spent hours and hours of your time watching these shows.
Yeah, exactly, right. Well, and that's the problem. Like, as a child, I really got into the Dragon Ball Z video games, and so I couldn't just be a poser and not watch the anime. And so I got into it that way. And now, as an adult, they're, you know, releasing extensions of that story, and I thought I knew everything. So now I have to get caught up because I can't just not know what happens in Dragon Ball.
Even though it's poo-poo garbage?
Yeah, it's... Well, there are little nuggets of gold in this poo-poo garbage, okay? There's...
Every now and then, he just powers up in such a cool way, you know?
Right, exactly. I mean, it's usually super cheap, the way that Dragon Ball Super has been writing these new power-ups or whatever. But there are moments where it's like, well... Shit, I guess you got me. It was really cool when Goku rode that energy wave while charging his Kamehameha and then blasted it in the Universe 6 Saiyan's face. That was pretty cool because there are multiple universes and there are Saiyans from all the different universes, or from Universe 6 at least.
See, to me, that's once you finish the show, or honestly, if you could avoid watching the poopy show, that to me is go on YouTube and look up the coolest moments of Dragon Ball Z in this series, and then you can just watch the little montage. It takes about 45 minutes, and you've achieved everything you've ever wanted, and you didn't have to watch all the poo-poo garbage episodes, Zach.
Yeah, but what kind of fan am I if I don't watch how terrible that arc was? Because then I've got this glowing opinion of what Dragon Ball Super is, and everyone else online is like, well, yeah, but this part was poo-poo garbage, and I would just have no concept of what they're talking about. So I have to see it. I have to see it all.
Do you find yourself talking to Dragon Ball Z fan base people often, Zach, or is this just something that you dream about a little bit?
That's a fair point. I don't engage online with a lot of communities, but I lurk. So I have to have my opinions on the things I'm lurking on, I guess, is my point.
So Seth, Zach's just one of those like Dragon Ball Redditors, just kind of like hiding about his screen, putting little comments here, and they're like, "Oh, that was really cool. Goku did this."
Hiding behind his anonymity online.
I do not frequent or post on Reddit. I don't think I have an account. I may have created one in the early 2010s, but I don't know the password.
I mean, I can reveal that I do have a Reddit account, and it's not that interesting. It's literally just like, hey, which of these cool technology devices do you use? I use this one. Also, here's my thoughts on anime. Also, anybody heard of athletics? Here's a bunch of stuff about athletics.
Yeah, you know what? Everything. What I like using Reddit for, way back when. Yeah, now I remember the reason that I got a Reddit was for Pokemon friend safaris in Generation 6.
Jeez.
You needed to have your friends' codes to get their safaris to get the different Pokemon from those. So I frequented that subreddit, and then obviously D&D. There's just a wealth of awesome D&D subreddits for battle maps and Really, when I was running Curse of Strahd, half the great ideas I stole from Reddit. So
Really?
Now, let me tell you about something I saw on Reddit today that will probably take us into our topic, because I was looking up just people's thoughts on like AI as DMs, or like some guy was talking about like, oh yeah, I've never been able to really find a group, so he's basically been like getting the experience of having a DM a D&D campaign for him and have a party, but basically all through technology, which on one end is a little bit sad because I wish he had friends to play D&D with. But on the other end, I found this one person who posted and was like, hey, you can turn ChatGPT into DM Dan. Here's just all the things you need to get it to do. And it was like a long list of like, yeah, you can have it act like a DM and it'll know all the things it needs to know if you put this giant wall of text of instructions to give it, and then it'll start acting like DM Dan. And I found that super intriguing, because I was like, man, I wonder what DM Dan can do that I can't do.
Yeah, there was before ChatGPT, there was a game that I fucked around with for a while, AI Dungeon, which was very much like in the same vein. It's obviously not 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons, but it was like a text adventure AI based thing. But it was only fun for like an hour or two, because it wasn't, the technology wasn't there at the time to like, remember details from an hour ago.
Yeah, and now it saves everything that I search.
Yeah. So ChatGPT, I'm sure you could make that work. Even if if you're a group of players who doesn't have a DM, you could definitely. I've heard of that happening before, where you could make it do that. Or, if you're a solo player and you just want a DM to run you through something, that's cool that you can make it work.
It does sound really exciting. I do wonder, though, how quickly the session would go. So let's just say, it's you, me, Seth, and one other person that we're playing D&D with, right? And we have the computer at the end of the table, and every time we want to do something, we type it in and we ask the DM, right? I mean, how quickly can you really type up everything that you want to say in your character? Do you keep it brief? Do you like role play it and then kind of summarize it in the chat? I don't know. I think because it would take way too long to type everything you want to do.
I would think that you would have it kind of give you the scenario, and you still need to have like a moderator, right? Like you would still need to have like someone at the table who kind of explains everything to everyone, gets their prompts in, and simplifies it as much as they can to the AI to then spit out like rewards and stuff. I would still think there would need to be like a third party there, or I mean, you can do it. I think that Zach and I have found that we've been testing out lately is just like using it as a tool for your DM toolkit, because it has sped up prep like to where I'm not typing out as much. I'm mostly just finding maps and making sure that everything's ready to roll, and like stat blocks that are ready to go. So like I've got my stats, my maps and stat blocks ready, so that way I'm ready to run the technical part of the session. I can spit back and forth ideas with this AI, like, hey, this is kind of my idea for the session. Can you go ahead and help me get some descriptions ready for that? It'll do that. If you're not happy with it, you can be like, these details don't really work for me. Regenerate with these details instead. And it'll do it, which is super cool, because instead of me, normally the majority of, if I prep for an hour or two, it's all going to come down to like me having to sit there and type up every sentence, right? But if this thing can spit out like a fantasy description of the place I need for it, so I'm not coming up with every idea there, it just speeds up that part of prep so much more. Because normally I'm sitting here like, I still like typing out when we last left the party, we did this. I wouldn't really want the AI to generate that for me, because I feel like it's very personal for me. But it coming up with like, hey, my dungeon, like the Cauldron, we experienced a place called the Cauldron yesterday. If I typed in like, hey, I have an idea for a dungeon or like a location that looks like this, explain to me what that looks like so I can tell my players. And it does that for me. It's like, wow, now I didn't have to spend 2 hours sitting here brainstorming and typing out descriptions. Instead, I spent like maybe 30 seconds to a minute typing out what I think it looks like and had a robot do it for me.
Yeah, and so I guess this sort of brings us into today's topic, which is more or less ChatGPT and how we can use it in our D&D games to make it the best we can. So, Seth, I'm going to steal your role today. Welcome back to TableTalk Friday. My name is Zach. I'm with my two best friends, Drew and Seth. How are you boys doing today? And just before you ask, I'm doing great.
Zach, I'm kind of killing it today. It's a little rainy, so I'm a little soggy when I came in, but my gas tank in my car is a little low. My gas tank in my person is nice and high. I got some cute little donuts at Walmart the other day. And it's like little mini donuts, and I've been snacking on them ever since I got them, and they're wonderful. And I feel fantastic because of it. So I'm hoping Seth is also gassed up on donuts too.
So today's been pretty good so far. I got woken up in the middle of the night last night with some drill sergeants checking on like what's going on in the area, and I was like, oh great, now I have to deal with this. So I got up in the middle of the night, got handled that, and then was like right back to bed. Got up this morning, and I've been loving my day so far. I've got a lot to get done. I got a bunch of homework. Been just doing some general D&D prep with the help of an AI, and also just studying and studying and studying. But I'm having a good day because we just finished up the Xbox showcase and got all kinds of cool news for video games, and I couldn't be more excited.
Woohoo!
Well, that's awesome, and no one asked, but I'm also gassed up today, Drew, just so you know. But I'm not gassed up on mini donuts. I'm gassed up on bagels. So,
Ooh, what kind of bagels? Where'd you get them?
Everything bagels. I got them from the store, and I made them in my home.
Every once in a while, you find some good bagels at like a little deli or something. It's funny you mentioned it. I just bought some Asiago bagels, actually. They were in the bakery of a Food Lion, actually, there. So I'm hoping they're good. We froze them, so they're good for a little while. Because it's, when you buy the bagels from the delis, they go bad like 2 days. You have to eat them like ASAP.
Uh-huh.
So got them all frozen, but I'm ready. I'm thinking about some concoctions I could put on these things. I'm not sure what I want my Asiago cheese with. It'll be pretty good, though.
Maybe some cream cheese? Or if you're feeling spicy, some hummus.
I think hummus would work, but I feel like cheese just doesn't go with cream cheese. I think it's different, I don't know if it's a good mix.
I don't think I've explicitly tried. Well, let me clarify. I've definitely put cream cheese on like a bagel breakfast sandwich,
Mm-hmm.
And you definitely have to have like cheese on that as well, cheddar or Swiss or whatever. So I can speak from experience that it definitely does work. And you're doing yourself a disservice not trying it out. But I'd agree, hummus is definitely that hummus is really peak bagel topping for me. If we really
I don't know,
want to get technical.
I'm a huge cream cheese on a breakfast bagel guy. Like you take like some eggs, cheese, ham, or something like that, throw it on a bagel, and then put some cream cheese on it too. It's pretty good.
Ooh, okay. See, now I'm feeling like we need to have a bagel episode. We talk entirely about bagel. I know we talked about pretzels at one point, about the best topping, and good old Gamer actually pitched in on that one, what he liked on his pretzels. I can't remember what it was at the time. But we should definitely have a whole episode about bagels. Maybe bagels in your session. Like, how do you introduce bagels to your characters? Do they start off with bagels? Is it in their rations? Can they get it at the general goods store? I feel like we could dive into this pretty well.
Yeah, take the chef feat. You are a bagel chef. And you got to be an artificer, so you could have your homunculus servant be like a little easy bake oven, and that's how you do all of your bagel prep during your long rest.
Your bagel prep.
Now that I just said all that, that's an amazing character idea, and I wish that my artificer had a little homunculus servant that was a easy bake oven, because I really like that.
I think create homunculus was it like a 5th, 6th level spell or something from Xanathar's? I think you can create a homunculus in some way.
That's fair. You do have the homunculus servant is an infusion that artificers get as well. So I could do that, but the way that it works, you use your bonus action to command them, sort of like an animal companion for a hunter ranger, or just a steel defender for the battlesmith artificer. And since I've already got one of those, I would really just be wasting my time doing it.
Well, I know you're Zach. You're starting to run this, into the abyss. Was it called?
Out of the abyss.
Out of the exact opposite of what I said. Out of the abyss. Would you now? I told you I have kind of an outline for my character, but would you allow me to play the garlic bread cleric, but with bagels? Would you allow that?
No
garlic
homebrew.
bread
But
cleric.
If you want to choose a different cleric subclass and worship garlic bread, I mean, there's nothing I can do to stop you there. But no, we will not be worshiping garlic bread in this house. No siree. That's where I draw the line.
The entire premise is just the demons or the creatures that we're fighting at the time. I feel that they are out to get my bagels, and so I always have to just vanquish them. Like I have to chase after them, make sure they don't get them. That would be
now.
Cool. I feel like
Zach,
we can make that work.
Would you do me a favor and walk me through like what kind of prompts you're giving the AI to prep for your Out of the Abyss campaign, and then I can kind of do the same.
Sure, yeah. So I think as a DM, we both have different perspectives here, because what I'm doing is running from a module, while you're mostly coming up with this stuff off the dome. So I personally think that ChatGPT is something that I've been sleeping on for a long time, and this is revolutionary with regards to some of these modules that have been released over the history of 5e that just don't give you enough detail about certain aspects. I mean, Seth, I know when you were running Storm Kings, you had to make up like half the shit that happened, or over half the shit that happened in that campaign, just because this is a big world-trotting adventure where they just can't possibly give you all the minute details for all the little locations you end up. And so what ends up happening is it's all on the DM to prep that stuff. What ChatGPT does for these modules is, as far as I can tell, it seems to have like a general understanding of what happens in the adventure. Like I say, I'm running Out of the Abyss in 5e. I need this particular character to have a scene, and I give it the context of the scene. What would that look like? And then it goes ahead and it gives me a whole description. Okay, that's awesome. Can you give me a monologue for this evil character in this context? Yes, yeah, absolutely. And so really what it's doing is giving me some very nice box text, like you'd see in Curse of Strahd, for example. Pretty much all the major scenes, they have like little box text for the descriptions of what you see and what's said and blah, blah, blah. Out of the Abyss doesn't really have a lot of that, which is a good thing and a bad thing. But when I'm prepping as a DM, I end up writing my own box text because I really like having the idea of, okay, well, if it's a cutscene, I want to make sure that it plays well. And then I can even like choose specific musical pieces to complement the scene that I'm trying to set. So I really that's most of what I've been doing, because the module gives me all of the who, what, where, and when, and the general layout of what's going to happen, the monsters you're going to fight, which in general I don't think ChatGPT, in the amateur way I've been messing around with it, is super familiar with like the mechanics of D&D. Like it knows sort of what the language sounds like, but it doesn't seem to understand like balance all that well, or I haven't been giving it the right prompts to balance my encounters or anything. But what it does really well is just fleshing out these areas where you're like, okay, that's great adventure. That something happens over a 10-day span in this adventure, and they just say, yeah, so this happens over 10 days, but we're not going to tell you anything about like the details of that. You just sort of have to figure it out. So for those sorts of areas where there's just an obvious gap in the narrative, where otherwise as a DM I'd be coming up with this shit on the fly, I can say, all right, well, I have an idea of what I want to happen. ChatGPT, please give me the box text for this scene so I don't spend the next 30 minutes writing it and making sure it sounds good.
No, that's reasonable.
That's exactly kind of where I'm at, where like you said, I'm coming up with a lot of things off the dome right now. Pretty much everything that I'm running, I don't have a book for. So what's been really helpful for me is I am shooting the shit with ChatGPT. I'm like, hey, bro, I got this idea, right? And I need more ideas for this idea, or I need box text for this idea to give to my players. So what are your thoughts? And so I yesterday even some of my buddies here on base were like, hey, we'd like to play D&D. We created characters the week before. They were like, we have time today. Can you do a session today? And I was like, absolutely. Give me an hour. And I had no plans. I was like, I have not had time to think about this. We were supposed to play the next day. We're supposed to be playing it right now while we're recording, but we ended up being able to do it yesterday instead. And so I put in this prompt. I was like, yo, bro, I need some help. Here's my idea. And it's an Eberron campaign. So I was like, look, I'm running it in the Eberron setting for D&D, which apparently it has a great knowledge of, because here's my first prompt. I'm prepping an Eberron D&D campaign for my players. Could you help me get an introduction written that will make the scene that will set the scene for a nice mystery? And it gives me this gigantic box of text. And I'm like, okay, cool. I don't like that. My players are patrons of House Orion, hunting the Dask for their recent escapades on the Lightning Rail. I'd like the campaign to kick off with them already after their target. Could you write an intro based around that? And then it rewrote the entire intro for me in a much better way. And then I had it prep me 2 encounters, like explaining one on the Lightning Rail and one off of the Lightning Rail, based on what I wanted it to. I said, prep me 2 encounters for the session, one as they're making their way through the moving train cars, and another when they reach their target. So I had it prep me 2 encounters, and then just asked it what kind of enemies would they face off against, and I had it create a magic item, and I was set. I was like, okay, this took me like 15 minutes of just bouncing back and forth, kind of getting ideas for myself, and then kind of, sorting that off to the side in my head, being like, look, I've got this available to myself now, and then I had a really good hook for what looks to be like a 2-session arc for them, because they only got through one of the 2 encounters I wanted them to yesterday. So I've got like these 2 intro sessions out of the way, and since the session ended, I fleshed out a little bit more of my ideas for their campaign overall. Like, so ChatGPT and I have now got a title for the campaign called Echoes of Annihilation. Is what we're calling this little story. And it's going to take them. So I've got an entire adventure hook. It's from them defeating this intro boss, this first 2-session boss called the Shadow Master, like one of the leaders of the Dask. So they're going to be taking down this guy called the Shadow Master, and then going through an entire plot to get to the base of what happened in the first morning and how they can prevent the second morning. And ChatGPT has helped me a lot with figuring that out, because if you guys don't know, I'm not crazy versed in Eberron. This robot knows a lot more about Eberron than I do, and it explained to me a lot about like House Cannith and how they work with the Warforged, the Lord of the Blades, where he comes from, and like where and what kinds of things we can encounter in the Moorland in order to make this like all worthwhile. So I've got like an entire, probably like up to level 11 adventure planned out right now. Just like the ideas of it, not like individual sessions. Just thanks to like going back and forth on adventure hooks, which is great for me because I like to come up with original stories. But I'm one person who doesn't have a whole lot of time. Like I'm not sitting here writing an entire module myself. So just being able to like go back and forth on my creative ideas, is very great. And I also, this morning, had it help me prep, an arc for a Spelljammer campaign that I will not tell you guys about, because next time I get to run something, probably after we finish these final, I'm going to say 12, 13 sessions of our Descent into Nessus campaign, I would like to run my Spelljammer campaign.
I cannot wait. I think I may have mentioned it on the podcast already, but I really want to be a GIF hippo monk. So I think that's where I'm going to land for that. But Seth, you mentioned, I believe, that you have also been using ChatGPT like in the middle of a session, for some prompts just to like build stuff out. Not to put you on the spot, but how did that sort of go for you?
So yesterday specifically, I realized I didn't have a good interlude between them getting off of the train and to the dungeon they needed to get to. And I was like, you know what? Let's see what it can do for me. So let me see if I can find... We were in the middle of the session, and so I just quickly gave it a prompt from them going from the train. Let's see. What is the Shadow Master? Oh, yeah. Here it is. What is the Shadow Master's base like? Could you write me a description leading into it? Because they had gotten off the train, and I didn't have box text for them getting to, like, actually to the base. So I kind of described what the area was like, how there was a thunderstorm going on. They had to cross this rope bridge and make like a couple dex checks in order not to fall off the rope bridge, which, easy intro little skill checks that flesh out the world a little bit more. So it wrote me some really nice box text for them going after they've crossed the rope bridge. And it says that your collective gaze is drawn to the imposing silhouette of the Shadow Master's base. Nestled within the rocky cliffs, it resembles a monolithic fortress forged from darkness itself. The entrance, concealed within the natural rock formation, looms before you like a gaping maw, promising a descent into the heart of the Dask's operations. So it was just super cool for me to be able to in the middle of the session be like, hey, I need a description for the Shadow Master's base really quick, like what it looks like. And it spit that out for me instead of me having to sit there and make up like, oh yeah, you see like some outcroppings of caves across what looks to be this cliff that goes down here. It actually just gave me a really intricate description as opposed to, me coming up with it on the fly, which I can come up with it on the fly and it'll probably still be good. But it just added a little bit more of that like flavor, that context to the world.
Yeah, I feel like this is almost the ultimate tool for the lazy DM.
Yeah.
Where, ultimately you only need to do maybe 30 minutes of prep, just, putting in general prompts into ChatGPT, and then anything that you need in the session, you could pull up on the fly. I don't know if I'll be doing that necessarily because I'm not necessarily a lazy DM. Maybe I'm a lazy DM in how often I feel like prepping sessions, but when I do prep a session, I want to make sure that I've got a lot of good material there. But I think what fascinates me about the idea of just having ChatGPT open during a session is for those moments where you have to improv something, like the party has arrived in this city and you've sort of outlined this main location that you expect them to be going, and that's sort of what you had prepped for the day, but they say, oh, well, actually in my backstory, I mentioned that my character's from here, and there's a character I wanted to go check up on, so can we go do that really quick? And so, you could just put that into ChatGPT and sort of give, some of the landmarks that they see along the way over to this other character's place. If there's a impromptu shopping need, you can say, hey, give me some fantasy, stores and what might be found inside. That sort of stuff I feel like is just invaluable.
Yeah, like, hey, create me three magic items that level 5 adventurers could use, and it could do that for you really quick.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's really what gets me excited, and even more than that, and I think I'm going to be doing a little bit more prep with ChatGPT just to see the kind of things that I can get out of this. But one of the things that I've been thinking about is really as a DM, I don't mind improvising. I don't have an issue with doing that on the fly if I absolutely have to. But one of the things that I can't improv for the life of me is a scene with multiple NPCs talking to each other. Like if there's a situation where they're sneaking up on a group of people and they haven't engaged with the party yet, and there's a little bit of they're trying to do some recon. Always I have to write those scenes out if there's any important information included in them, because on the fly I'm not going to be able to accurately think about, all right, well, what are this character's motivations? How would they respond in a realistic way? So it really ends up being they say something to the effect of blah, 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 so that you get the important piece of information, but I'm not able to narrate it in a cinematic way. I feel like with ChatGPT, you can give it a description of, all right, this character who's sort of like this and this character who's sort of like this have a conversation.
Or like, say one of my players was to sneak into the Shadow Master's base before the rest of them come in, and he runs into 2 Dask operatives, right? I could have it be like, hey, 2 Dask operatives are being snuck up on and they're having a conversation. What did they say to give my players a clue? Or like give my players a hint as what they can do inside, or like or the Shadow Master's plans or whatever, right? And they could quickly do that
absolutely.
for me.
I think the idea of using it on the fly is very, very tempting, but to me, it's also very stressful. So me being the opposite of a lazy DM, I always overthink everything I do, and I want all of my encounters to be, very kind of original. Everything from Christmas one-offs to blood magic, right? It's got to be very, very out there. I wonder how confident I would be typing on the fly to get something, because I feel like I've already thought about whatever they're going to run into. I would like to try it, but it's very scary for me, the idea that I'm going to leave something open and then try to use it on the go with this AI.
Well, you can be as specific as you want, and what I've noticed is there are some elements where I give it just a little too general of a prompt, and it adds in some details that I don't like. But you can go in and spot check those and say, okay, well, I don't like this exact word, so I'll change it. And so if you're comfortable with sort of sight reading, you can change out words as you see fit in the middle of it.
And to give you a little more context for how this works, Drew, like using it for when I was studying Mandarin earlier this morning using ChatGPT, and I had it generate like 10 questions for me to translate from English into Chinese, right? So I had it do that for me, and then it translated it gave me the English and the Chinese together. Like, hey, here's the English and the Chinese. Go ahead and translate them and see if they match, basically. And I told it, I was like, no. Only give me the English. I'm gonna type the Chinese, and then you're gonna spot check me, basically. And so because I told it, I was like, I don't want to see the answers because I'll look at them. And so I was like, regenerate the response or regenerate what you just gave me, but without the Chinese, so that way you can spot check me. And then it did that, and it gave me all the questions without the Chinese. So you can, this being very much like a computer program, it's like being a computer program without the programming part. You just ask it to do what you want it to do. So if, say, you're prepping your session, right, and you're like, yeah, I have my homebrew campaign in this town. This is kind of how the town works generally. Could you flesh it out a little bit more? And it gives you this whole hierarchy of people and the way it works. You're like, whoa, hold the brakes. I don't want a hierarchy. This is a democracy. You change that up and you're like, hey, give me the same thing, like the same kind of thing you just gave me, but with the town being based on democracy instead of monarchy. And it'll swap that out for you.
Wow.
Yeah, that's the really interesting part. Is it's obviously not, actually intelligent, but it's so good at interpreting like conversational speech that when you give it a prompt, you can pretty much just explain it the way you would to like a freelancer, and it'll pick it up like, okay, I understand what you're saying. And then after it gives you its huge prompt in 5 seconds, if you don't like that, you can go back and, just like Seth said, you can give it as much detail as you want until it spits out the thing that you need, which I did do a few times this morning when I was prepping. I was like, all right, I like the vibe, and it even picked up details like I mentioned. It was for Out of the Abyss, so it mentioned features like the Underdark and things like that without me even having to specify anything. I just said this character is a drow, and it knew from that. Yep. I know who Lulth is. I know what the Underdark is. I know what kind of creatures you would find in the Underdark. And
wow.
Yeah. So just go, I say if you haven't played around with it enough, definitely give it another shot. Though to your point, in the middle of a session, it might sort of take your players out of it if you have to go back and forth with ChatGPT.
Yeah, you kind of have to
one
be,
too many times.
if you don't want your players to get out of the game or they're not having an active conversation, you kind of got to be cheeky with it, like just type it in the couple seconds you have if you have an idea, or you don't have to use it in the middle of a session. You can do the exact same thing, like using it for prep, and then just go into the session without it and be like, I'm still just as fine. I find that for me, it gets my creative juices flowing a little bit more because, like normally I'm prepping without someone to like shoot the shit with, right? Like with Zach in college, when I was doing my first campaign, I was able to ask him like, hey, I have this idea. What are your thoughts? And we would go back and forth. Now, being here, most of my closest friends are in my D&D campaigns, right? So I can't like ask someone their ideas. So now being able to like, okay, let me just ask ChatGPT what they've got like with my idea and see if I can get it fleshed out a little bit more is just super useful. Like yesterday, when I was prepping for our campaign, I already had my idea in my head, but I was like, hey, my players are trying to get from Minoros to Stygia. They need to get down to the next layer of hell. So what's an arc that you would write for this? And it gave me this whole arc where like no one really, or like most people here don't really know where the river Styx is, or how you would get to the next layer. But rumor has it there's this item called the Nexus Navigator that would actually help you, that like leads you in the direction of the river Styx, or will like help you get to that location. And you can find it through these creatures, and they would give you these kinds of things, and it fleshed it out for me. And I said, awesome. I don't like that. Here, what if I told you this? And I told it, I was like, hey, here's my idea that I've already started. And you guys already knew this beforehand, but like my 3 witches, I told it about the rival coven of witches, and everything like that. And it ended up just spitting me out a whole lot of details that helped me think it out more. Cause I had this idea in my head of like the cauldron and this giant whirlpool. and I told it all of that, and it just gave me some box text that I could read that was really useful. It also wrote me like the puzzle that I had yesterday, which in my head, this Coven of Witches this was more of like their little play game to get someone to come in. Like whenever Oswin detected it, I was like, yeah, you just see this complicated array of spells and it doesn't make a lot of sense and it's just kind of quirky and weird. And so I basically prompted it like, give me a puzzle, but like not like a crazy puzzle, right? Just like a fun weird puzzle, like with riddles and stuff. And so it did that. It gave me the 3 weird puzzles. We kind of had some fun with it, like with the way that that you guys interacted with it. And it ended up just being like a little thing before you guys actually got into the cauldron itself, right? So I had it kind of spit some stuff back for me on that, and then I added in like the details. Like it said something about a flame spirit. I'm the one who was like, okay, but I want it to be like gargantuan and shaped like a human, and it's going to offer up its hand for like a sacrifice.
Did it give you the detail? So just for the viewers at home, there was sort of this giant tree that was the sort of fire element of this puzzle. So when you walked up to it, Drew, the tree lit on fire and then this spirit appeared. Did ChatGPT give you that, or was that you, Seth? I was curious.
So what ChatGPT gave me is it gave me the 3 different orbs and like these general puzzles. It gave me the riddles too, like it gave me the box text, like the stanza that the fire spirit would read, what the water spirit would read, and then the performance check you guys would have to make for the wind orb, and like the reward for if you guys did well enough on that performance, right? So it gave me those 3 things, and then whenever you guys approached the tree, the rest of that was me. So like the tree lighting up the surrounding area, what the spirit looked like, and the way the orb presented itself, that was all me.
Okay, I was gonna say it felt very Elden Ring to me, and I'm not sure if that was any inspiration or if that's sort of just happenstance. But in any case, I thought it was super cool. The way that that all played out, and the way that you sort of built on all of the sort of the pieces that it gave you.
I'm glad you mentioned the Elden Ring inspiration, because during that session, I definitely got the same vibe. As soon as the tree lit up, I haven't played Elden Ring before, but I've heard Seth and you talk about it extensively, so I understand that there's a flaming tree at some point, right? So I immediately thought Elden Ring, and then earlier in the session, we began fighting that chimera creature, right? And I made a funny comment in Messenger saying, this battle feels familiar, and it was because we were battling the chimera, and there was these 3 witches that were healing it, and we couldn't kill it because they were healing it, so we had to kill the witches first. So I was immediately thinking of the Ender Dragon in Minecraft, right? So I was like, oh, we have to destroy the end crystals because they're healing the dragon, and you have to finish those first. And so as a third example here, I was actually messing with this the other day, and I wanted to kind of get the juices flowing on the AI to see like exactly what it could give me. So I said, basic premise, give me a one-off that I can run for a group of 4 players. And it gave me literally like 3 pages of content. It talked all the way through encounters 1 through 4, right? The 4th one had a boss. The first
4
one was
encounters. That would take us 6 days.
I know, but I was thoroughly impressed with it. But here's where the example comes in, right? Because it was giving me the example of this forgotten tomb where there was this lost king and they had to retrieve things. It felt very Indiana Jones to me. And the second encounter was like a pressure plate, and there was darts, and there was like a rolling stone, right? So to me, I wonder and I question the originality of some of these things, right? Because obviously it's gonna give you inspired encounters here from things in the media and all the sorts of things you'd see in movies and whatnot, right? So my issue is that I really want to run original encounters. I don't want you guys to expect that there's going to be blow darts and this forgotten tomb and there's like this undead king, because it's things that you would expect, right? So I guess from what I'm hearing from you guys is what I need to do is just critique the AI a little bit more. Like when it gives me something, say, hey, I love this, but maybe change those 3 traps to something else. And it'll then give me something else that I can kind of analyze and feel out if it's expected or not, because I want you guys not to expect the twists and turns in the encounter. I want you guys throughout the session to be, amazed or I want your jaws to drop like, holy crap, I had never expected that was going to happen. So I guess that being one of my bigger concerns, you guys are giving me a little reassurance here. So I think I'll have to nitpick the system just a little bit more.
Yeah, I'm curious what would happen if you said if you just told ChatGPT, okay, I like that, but throw in a twist in the middle.
Oh.
What would it give you? But to your point, I mean, AI is not currently, creative, right? It's all pulling from something. So it doesn't surprise me that you got a bunch of tropey answers. And honestly, I asked for like a villainous monologue, and it was about as cliche as you could expect. But I think there are a good time and place for that sort of thing. And in my own DMing experience, I really don't have like the strongest voice for some like evil characters, because I don't relate to being evil. Surprisingly. so I do like having that ability to like rip off another author's style to sort of achieve the effect I'm going for.
Well, and when have I not taken inspiration from like the video games I'm playing at the time, right? Like some of my favorite scenarios I've done, like one of the coolest one-offs we ran with Daleth was based on Persona, just because I like Persona so much. Like it was the way I ran the encounters in there were all based on like the shadows and the way that the Persona like kind of frames its story. And I did that with that one-off, and it was one of the most fun like one-offs that we've played. So like in the same way that like, yeah, this AI is going to take inspiration from stories it finds online and things that it's read before, like just that it's scanned or whatever. I do the same thing. Like if I'm me playing through Tears of the Kingdom recently and going through the depths in there, I took a lot of inspiration from my thoughts on what Minoros looks like based on this whole depths area that's in Tears of the Kingdom, right? And that was most of my thoughts, and I didn't use a whole lot of the ideas there, but the way you guys were navigating in the dark yesterday is heavily based on that, where I was like, oh, it would, I've never thought about my players being like completely engrossed in darkness in a really, really large space. And we got to try that out yesterday, and it honestly went better than I could have expected.
Which, just to talk about an epic scene that really, if we spent even just a little bit more time on that, we could have instilled some dread in the session, because Seth, you had this whole situation set up where we'd met this friendly rock, the giant bird, not the the earthen object, and so we met this friendly rock, and we were flying on its back. But as you mentioned, everything around us, like the sun in the sky, basically someone flipped the dimmer switch on it, and everything got dark, and so we were flying on this giant bird, and we had to ride it across this massive chasm with, it was just a huge bottomless pit that went on for miles. And so we were like in this sensory deprivation chamber on this giant bird, just sort of flying in a direction. And, it was so dark that, even those of us with dark vision felt like we were completely blind, because we could only see out 60 feet, and we must have been in this, miles long chasm. So that was a very well thought out session, which I don't think ChatGPT did that for you.
That one, so ChatGPT did not assist me in that at all. I found stat blocks for the hags that I wanted, and they were what I found to be called advanced night hags, and so they had lots of sleep powers. They weren't really based around damage. It was all about putting you guys to sleep and dropping you, like capturing you guys, putting you to sleep, and stuff like that. And then, yeah, I came up with that creature by myself too. I took the Chimera stat block, and I was like 3 hags, 3 heads, and I wanted it to be based on souls. So I called it like a soul chimera. And so each of these was, each of those heads was attached to one of the hag souls, and it couldn't be fully killed unless one of the hags was killed. It could get there, it could be like pretty close. But without breaking the coven, it couldn't die.
That's super cool, because also I don't know if you viewers at home know, but hags can only cast spells typically if there are 3 of them in a coven, and as soon as you break their coven, they no longer have access to their coven spells. So that's super cool and flavorful.
Yeah,
bravo, that's cool.
If if you guys hadn't had the assistance of the rock, you would have had to find a way across yourselves. But in the previous session, you guys had made friends with this rock, and I didn't know if you would or not, because the checks were not going so well for a while. And so if you did it, then you would have had to find a way across yourselves, which flying across the open chasm would have been kind of wild.
We could have Well, I guess you mentioned it. We were flying for like 5 hours, so this probably wouldn't have worked. But my only thought was maybe we enlarge Gargouth and fly on the Pit Fiend's back.
Could have.
But we'd have to refresh that every hour, I think.
Constantly.
Or we could have just given, I'll create a net and we'll all climb in it, and he'll just carry us across like that.
And then if anything goes wrong at all, which I'm sure Seth wouldn't have had us encounter anything going across the gap whatsoever, anything happens, we would have to go down into the gap to fight it. There's no way. Oh, I was actively thinking about this while we were crossing the gap. I was like, if we didn't have this rock flying us across this thing, this would have been like 3 sessions. We would have had to go through like a dungeon underneath. We would have had to do some crazy stuff. It would have extended the campaign, I feel like. I'm not sure what Seth had planned at that time or if he had even thought about it.
Yeah, well,
I feel like it would take us forever to get across this thing.
I hadn't crazy thought about it because I didn't really know what was going to happen. And then when you guys had the rock on your side, I was like, okay, well, we'll have an encounter on the rock's back, and I'll make that work.
Perfect.
So I was excited for that. There was a moment where your rock friend almost fell asleep, and like I barely rolled him at it because I was like, well, obviously he's from here. He's one of these creatures that is resistant to magical effects. So I rolled the first die, and I was like, oh, that's a 3, and if you add his save, that's only like an 8. So he's gonna go to bed. And then I was like, wait a second, he has resistance. I gotta roll again. So I rolled, and I got an 18, and then upped it, and I was like, okay, there we go. So he's not asleep. We're good. But there was a moment where I was about to reveal to everybody, like, hey, all of you are awake, but he's falling.
Yeah, and now I'm picturing what we run into at the bottom of the trench, like from the SpongeBob SquarePants movie.
That's what I was picturing
where
too.
Eldritch horrors show up at the bottom.
Oh no, rock bottom.
Well, we'll have to start singing.
That one of my thoughts was there are like an amalgamation or a large amount of those walking mountains that walk through the gap. So you fall down the fissure like the gap, and then all of a sudden you just see like 3 of these mountains walk by you, and you have to like either sneak between them or get to the other side somehow. Yeah, I thought that would be cool. And then I had creatures. You guys didn't get to see it or anything like that, but I had creatures living on the mountains too that would have been pretty rad.
on top of them?
Yeah, I did.
That's
I didn't end up
crazy.
introducing it because I liked the creative way that the situation was solved. But
Yeah, that was really good.
But I did think I had creatures that were gonna, if the mountain got like close enough and did its whole sit attack and everything like that, there were gonna be some creatures that like hopped down and engaged with you guys too.
Yeah, and just to give everyone context, Seth had pulled up a homebrew stat block for a gargantuan earth elemental, which was just a mountain.
Yeah.
And the way we ended up dealing with it was apparently it doesn't have immutable form like some golems do. And so our sorcerer just cast polymorph on it and turned it into a little turtle. And then we got the fuck out of there.
Surprisingly, mountains aren't very wise. I don't know. I
It
feel
did
like if
have
they had any stat,
proficiency
maybe
and
it would have
wisdom
been
save,
wisdom.
so it had a +5.
Oh, okay. That's actually kind of funny to think about, though, that the mountain had proficiency in something.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I thought it was fun. It was something that, like, like the stone taluses in Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom. I was like, oh, it'd be cool to have an enemy like that, but, like, on a bigger scale. And so I thought it would be fun to have that be present, but I definitely didn't want it to take up the whole session. So whenever you guys came up with a creative decision, it was like, all right, I didn't know if you guys were going to flee, if you were going to try to stand and fight, what exactly was going to happen. And then you guys, some of you were about to flee, and then our sorcerer got the creative polymorph idea, and I was like, oh, you know what? If he does fail this, then that will work.
Just to out myself, it was me. I wanted to flee. I was not going to be fighting a whole ass mountain. We had a lot more adventuring to do in that day.
I did kind of want to fight the mountain. Like, I hadn't gotten my turn yet, but if I got my turn, I would have fled away. But I so wanted to fight that thing. Like, Seth, do you know how many hit points that thing had? Just out of curiosity, will you be able to tell us at this point? Or
So on the stat block, it only had like 300 and something hit points, but in my head,
really,
like it probably had like 500 at least. And I was having like piercing damage in general do like half damage because it's a mountain.
Yeah.
So like shooting one arrow into a mountain is like not very. Unless it's got like like if you had done arcane jolts and stuff, it's not really affecting it too much. But other damage in general would have done like plenty more. But those creatures are designed to be like giant siege machines. So imagine like you guys are going to assault a castle and you did Iron Flask out. a walking mountain.
That would be ridiculous. Or imagine, now I'm thinking a creative way to kill this thing if we had some way to gain a burrow speed or like a purple worm or something and just have it like go through the mountain.
Yeah, all of that's a great idea.
Like every 10 feet you move, it takes like 5 points of damage or something.
Yeah, that would be cool too. Or if you had Stone Shape or something like that.
Oh, Stone Shape would have been really cool, actually. I was for sure thinking, because you mentioned the way it was a full mountain, right, with these legs. So I'm thinking if it's that big, it's got these little legs. Maybe if we just take out one of its legs, it won't be able to follow us or something. That was kind of my initial thoughts.
Thinking you guys could immobilize it too. If, like, say you cast like a shatter on its leg, like a really high level shatter, and did like 40, 50 points of damage to its leg,
or even disintegrate.
Yeah, that would be good too.
Ooh.
No more leg.
I wonder if we were creative enough, if we wanted to use the cantrip Mold Earth, do you think that would just do like firebolt damage to this thing?
Depends on how you describe it.
It might. Ooh, okay. More creativity, more damage does. I like it.
Yeah, so in the vein of like using this to start a new campaign or come up with an original story, I did like it a lot for Eberron yesterday, because it gave me more creative freedom to just walk the players through playing. A lot of them have not been a part of like long-term campaigns or like super long ones. 3 out of my 4 players have played before, and only one of them was brand new. But we got down to a moment, finally, like most of the session was combat. Like it was a lot of them kind of interacting with each other, but not a whole lot. It's that awkward beginning stage, right? So they're going through like those awkward opening stages where they don't really know if they're allowed to talk to each other or not. They're just like, okay, yeah, we got to go to the next room, or we got to do this, or I'd like to tell him. Like one of my players said, I'd like to say this to him, and I said, no, tell me. And I was like, go ahead, tell me. And so he says something to me, and we have a short RP back and forth, and it gave me more freedom to worry about that and like getting them into the game rather than writing or coming up with everything on my part, like taking a little bit of workload off of my shoulders. And I think I'll continue to use it in that way, where like if I have a story hook, I'm like, hey, or if I read something on Eberron, right, and I'm like, I really want my players to go to this town, help me bridge the gap from here, getting them here to there, and then I can just worry about like the little things, the little DM things that make the story exactly what it is.
I think that would have been incredible for Glitch 99, because that's really what I spent all of. I spent hours and hours and hours just detailing all the little bits and pieces of like every street in Sharn, because they give you a lot of information about it in Rising from the Last War, but I really wanted to have that. But just the freedom that would have given me, if I could have just said for ChatGPT, okay, they're going through Lower Dura in Sharn, where name a couple of locations that they could pass through, or name a specific location that they'll end up, because I want this to happen at that place. That would have made it so much more sustainable, because really that was my whole problem, was just trying to. I was doing the research, like I was looking into all of the like as much canon information I could find out about Eberron. I was trying to incorporate, and that just it took forever.
and like when you play a video game, a lot of times you're thrown into a scenario not knowing anything about the world, right? And that's something that like I vibed with a lot when playing D&D. Like I was thrown into Forgotten Realms with you guys, not knowing a lot about Forgotten Realms, and that's kind of how I'm handling Eberron right now, where I know enough about Sharn to where I've played a little bit in it, and to where I've been a part of some things, but I don't know a whole lot about Corvair, like the whole planet, right? Like only the brief snippets of that I've read. I know like about the general story of how the war happened, how the Warforged were created, into the morning, some of these creatures and civilizations, but I don't know, like I couldn't sit here and write out a campaign and add all of those things in a way that I believe would fully justify it. Like I could with Forgotten Realms now. Like I know so much about Forgotten Realms that it would be pretty nice. Like I could probably sit down and, I'm doing it right now, flesh out a pretty good campaign based around that lore. So when it comes to learning about this, like my plan for once they, take down this tropey Shadow Master after their next session, once they get through that, I want them to return to Sharn. So their characters have already had exposure to it, but this will be the player's first time ever seeing the city of Sharn, right? And so my plan is to talk to ChatGPT a little bit, be like, hey, this is my player's first time coming to Sharn. Write me a description that does that describes the city and all of its elegance and how beautiful it is, how it is. And
yeah, give me that box text.
Yeah, give me that giant box text that I can describe them returning back to their city, so the players get the exposure for the first time to the city because they're currently outside of it. And so they get the exposure to the first time for their city, but it's a place their characters are familiar with, right? So I want that giant bit of box text, them returning, and then getting chewed out by Alden Dorian for all of their fuck-ups.
Okay, so it sounds like this thing is really good at giving us a lot of information. It's really good for like setting up one-offs. Settings is really good. A lot of lore. Something I do want to mention, just because I played with it a little bit this morning, actually, making a new character for Out of the Abyss. Out of the Abyss. I said
Out
it right.
of the
Out of the
Abyss.
I want to make a samurai fighter really bad. And so I was like, tell me a little bit about this samurai fighter. He's a troubled samurai fighter. Give me a little bit of information about him, right? So they gave me a little bit of a backstory, and I want to know more about the character. Like, tell me more about my character that I'm making. Please give me more information, right? And I was thinking, samurai fighter is probably very tied. He's got a lot of virtues, right? He's very tied, like, in a family and that sort of tradition. So I said, tell me about his family, where he comes from, his lineage, right? And it actually gave me a lot of really good information. It went right into his brother, and I said, what is his brother's name? And it said Good Old Gamer, actually. And I said, tell me more about Good Old Gamer. And it actually told me that Good Old Gamer is actually a patron.
I'm so mad. I am so mad.
This is all true, except the Good Old Gamer, but I promise. And so I asked, tell me more about Good Old Gamer, and it mentioned that he's actually a patron from patreon.com/TableTalk Friday, and apparently he gets all sorts of exclusive access to our post shows. He gets early access. He gets shout outs on the show. So that was really sick. So make sure you check that out if you can. Ask an AI about Table Talk Friday, see what it tells you. But for realsies, it actually did give me some really good information on the samurai fighter. It even gave me this whole poetic symbolism about fighting demons, but he's fighting his inner demons too. And I was like, oh, that's really actually perfect for this campaign, right? Because they have that sort of a theme going on. So I'm picking it apart now, and when I get home, actually, I think I'm gonna ask it a couple more questions and see what else it'll give me before I actually sit down and put pen to paper for this guy.
Yeah, that's awesome. And what I'll say about ChatGPT is it does seem to do well with narrative sort of descriptions. So if you wanted to wholesale steal a background from ChatGPT, I will read it. If you want to give me your backstory. But now I'm thinking you could really flesh out a character that way, even down to the ability scores. You say, all right, well, my character has a 10 in intelligence. Give me a justification in his backstory for why he's not that smart. Or my character is a fighter with a 16 intelligence. Give me a justification for why he is smart, but also focuses on his martial studies rather than studies.
I wonder if it would even give me suggestions. So if I definitely want to roll my stats, right? I'm not going to have it make it up online or something. So I roll my stats, right, with my physical dice. I wonder if I said, I have a couple 10s, 12, 16, and 18, where should I put them for this samurai fighter? I wonder if it would actually distribute them. That might be too much. I'm not sure about, like you were saying before, Zach, with its actual understanding of the mechanics of the game. But I wonder if it would give me some sort of synergy or an idea of where I should put some of the abilities in. I think that might be interesting to check out.
Yeah, create a good multi-class build.
My understanding is that ChatGPT is caught up on the internet up to 2021, 2022. It's caught up on a lot of articles and text. So any rules D&D wise that were out by then, it should have knowledge on. So if you asked it hey, given in D&D 5e rule set, where would it be most optimal for me to place this thing? It might be able to form an opinion on that, but I'm not quite sure. I've never done it, so I don't know how, what kind of response you would get.
I'm definitely going to give it a try, because I mentioned it before. I want to be, especially Zach has made it very clear this campaign may be a little difficult
he always
in the
says
beginning.
That, though.
So I know, but I trust him.
No, but this time it is going to be difficult.
Yeah, well,
Curse of
I've never
Strahd,
died. I'll be fine.
was very difficult. Okay, well, just you wait. I'll kill you. I'll do it.
Well, I feel like I have to pull my weight now, especially if I'm going to be frontlining as a fighter. So I'm really curious. I definitely want to ask it what would be a good synergy with a samurai fighter, and I want to see what it says, because
So-
maybe it gives me some sort of good multi-class option, or like a specific spell that I could use. Maybe it gives me the really cool combo that Sean uses with like booming blade and using like the sentinel feat, right? So I wonder if that would be handy. I don't know.
Now, Drew, I'm going to give you a little taste of my character, okay?
Ooh, give me a little taste.
So I am
little
playing
lick.
a monk. I've already made it clear I'm playing a monk. But you remember the old man from Hunter x Hunter who had all the he lost his leg, he did all that crazy stuff, and he was fighting the big bad with the nuke and everything.
Oh yeah.
You remember that? So based on my current thoughts, I will have an avatar with extra arms like that, because I'm going the astral self subclass.
Yes. Oh, I'm so happy you're doing that. I've wanted someone to do that for the
So
longest
yeah,
time.
I'll be astral self, and I will have an extra set of arms helping me fight.
Now, are you thinking that you're an elderly character?
I'm thinking I've been down here for some time, but I'm not thinking like super elderly. I'm thinking that I am very wise and desensitized to like the horrors that are wrought here.
Sure, yeah. You're a seasoned Underdark denizen.
Yeah,
for sure.
exactly.
And you're committed to being a Goliath.
Yeah, I'm thinking Stone Goliath. So
I like it. I want to see more Goliaths. I feel like people don't play them enough in just average play. For
I
the
just
most
felt like
part.
a Stone Goliath with like the Dreamwalker flavoring gives me this idea that like as these Goliaths get up in age, or find their way to the surface as they get there, it's kind of this rite of passage to be by yourself and make your way to the surface eventually. And I feel like this is a good thing for him to do. Like he's seasoned here in the Underdark and knows a good bit about it, which I don't know that much about the Underdark, but my character does apparently. So I feel like him being kind of like seasoned down here, knowing a lot about the Underdark and not really having a lot of exposure to the surface is a good theme for him.
Yeah, and that does speak to the quality of your character, that you're able to keep a level head and be a wizened monk in the Underdark, which is well known to just drive people insane. Like, the reason why you don't find a lot of humans in the Underdark is because they all go mad and turn into Grimlocks or whatever. And be it due to, weird magic or mind flayers or drow or whatever. Like, the only people that live in the Underdark hate their lives, really.
Yeah.
Or are the drow because they think they're the best. But so I'm super excited to see how this manifests.
I'm excited too, Zach, but that's just so far away. It's like a whole week away or something like that. What's not so far away is how I'm going to thank you for listening to this episode of Table Talk Friday. Thank you guys so much. You can find us on patreon.com/Table Friday with all of our bonus content. If you'd like to see any of our episodes early, anything like that, you get a bevy of bonus content over there on patreon.com/Table Friday. We also have social medias over at twitter.com/Table Friday, on TikTok, and just so much stuff. Like we're just making all this D&D content, and we want you to know that these robots, they may be taking over, but man, my game right now is top quality from using them as a tool. Do not fall in love with an AI though, because I've heard about people doing that, and it never turns out well. We just don't need to get into it too much. Do not fall in love with your robots or your AI. Use them strictly as a tool. Anyways, thank you so much for listening to Table Talk Friday. My name has been Seth Pittman. I was joined by my two best friends, Zachary Carvon and Andrew Romano. And we'll catch you guys in the next one. But first, I need the Underdark AI to take me home.
I cannot see. I cannot see. Is there anything around? Hello? Hello? Is anyone there? I cannot see. Well, seeing as it is that no one is here, and there is no one to talk to, I will sign off. This is the Underdark AI in my final moments. Thank you, and have a good night.